Hey everyone, welcome back to No Textbook for Life. I'm your host, Malia Johnson. Around here, we talk about the real life lessons school forgot to teach us, the stories, struggles, and surprises that shape who we are. Every episode is a little different. Sometimes it's just me, sometimes I bring on guests, but it's always real, honest, and straight from the heart. So get comfy, take a breath, and let's get into today's episode. I just want to say that I have seasonal allergies, so I'm going to sound a little stuffy. But today I want to talk about something a little different. The things I don't apologize for. And I will say that some of these things I'm still working on. But I just kind of want to go over this because as a mom and as a woman, sometimes the need to apologize is definitely a thing. So I know some podcasts do the stop apologizing thing, but here's the truth. I've never really been someone who says sorry for everything, and that's been pretty freeing. Like I said, I'm still working on some stuff. Research actually shows women apologize 3 to 8 times more per day than men, sometimes for things they didn't even do. Excessive apologizing can actually undermine confidence and even make people take you less seriously. And I will say on my mission, I was put with someone who's a very kind, loving person. However, she apologized for every little thing. We even had a sorry jar, and that thing was filled just from a day. And you could tell that her confidence was at an all-time low. So I wanted to share what not apologizing for everything might look like in my life and maybe give you some ideas about what you don't need to apologize for either. There's just some things that are theoretically unnecessary. For example, number one, parenting choices. With my first child, I was kind of book strict, following the rules, trying to have a schedule and tons of different products and full nursery setup. With my second, I completely winged it. I hardly actually, I winged it so much that I didn't have a doctor or midwife until I was halfway done with my pregnancy. But I realized that less was more, and it worked out so much better. The American Academy of Pediatrics says there's no one-size-fits-all approach to feeding, sleep, routines. Every child is different, and being a mom of two, I can definitely see the difference. What worked for my first baby definitely does not work for my second baby most of the time. So I don't apologize for the way I parent. Uh, I definitely trust my instincts more, even if someone gives me a side eye at the park. I know it works for my family. And one example was I was mentioning to this older woman that we co-sleep, even though my daughter was 3 years old at the time. The reason being several different reasons. The first 6 months of her life, she was in our room, either in a bassinet or next to me. Then the next 18 months of her life, we shared a one-bedroom room where she was either in a pack play in our room, in our bed, or in her own little mattress on the floor in our bed. And then when we moved to our new home, we just didn't have a bed for her, so she ended up just sleeping with us in our king size bed until we had our second baby. So, the situation was different. We definitely don't do that now with our second child. She's been in her own bed since she was probably 8 months old. But definitely was getting judged for the fact that she wasn't sleeping on her own since she was one, and the fact that she wasn't fully potty trained by two. So, parenting is different for each mother, for each of their own children. Number two, boundaries. Boundaries are huge for me. I've had to say no to playdates, family visits, babysitting, extra commitments that I just didn't have the energy for. And you know what? That's okay. Studies show boundary setting reduces stress and anxiety, improving mental health. Breen Brown even says, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves even when we risk disappointing others. And this was something I had to learn because I felt like I needed to be somebody else for certain people, right? And working on finding who I am and being comfortable with that version of myself. So being an unapologetic boundary setter is going to be life-saving and much better for you down the road. 3, taking breaks/rest. Mom life is exhausting, and I don't apologize for taking naps, skipping a chore, or binge watching a show while the kids play. Now, this was a lot easier to do when I was pregnant because I felt that I could take these breaks and this rest, but now not being pregnant, I feel that I need to work on giving myself breaks, even though I'm not creating a life and I don't feel like I have an excuse now. But as a mom, I still need to be present for my children, and to do so, I need to take those breaks for myself so I don't lose myself taking care of my kids and later being resentful for it. Adults need 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night. Chronic sleep deprivation increases the risk of anxiety and depression. And this I can definitely say 100% because I struggle with sleep. And when I was pregnant, I was doing so good with my sleep. I'd go to bed about 8 or 9, get up about 7 or 8, and that nice long night's rest really, really helped. I felt probably the best mentally and emotionally when I was pregnant because I was taking care of myself so, so well. And then when I had my baby, I stopped taking care of myself. I stopped getting the sleep I needed. I was extremely anxious, extremely depressed, to the point of suicidal thoughts, and which resulted in therapy and getting medication. So doing much better now, a year postpartum, but sleep is absolutely necessary, number one priority health-wise. Matthew Walker in Why We Sleep calls sleep the single most effective thing we can do to reset our brain and body each day. That's extremely important. So I sleep in while my toddler watches cartoons. My brain needed it. And I have had to do this sometimes when my toddler woke up way too early. And so I just set her in my bed and slept while she watched cartoons on her Kindle. I don't have to do that as often because now that my baby sleeps in longer, she's a year old and my oldest is 4 now, I do get the sleep that I need. Number 4, body and appearance. I will say that I'm working on this one the most. I have not embraced my postpartum body. But I will say if you can, that is best. This is something, like I said, it's been hard for me since I was a child, is just accepting who I am and what I look like. So, all I can do right now is give some advice from research that I have done, not from personal experience. But if you have personal experience and you have embraced that postpartum body, or you just are comfortable in who you are and what you are, then let me know your secrets to being that way. Research, though, says it shows that practicing body acceptance is linked to higher self-esteem and better mental well-being. Breen Brown says, owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing that we'll ever do. So yes, this is something I want to get better at. I've just always struggled with body appearance And it didn't matter what I weighed or what I looked like, I always struggled. So, like I said, I would love to know some tips and tricks to getting on a better wavelength with my own mental well-being and self-esteem. But this is not something you should apologize for, is looking a certain way, especially if you've had a baby or babies. I think as a society, we need to do so much better at embracing ourselves and embracing moms and just women in general. Like, we always have to struggle with appearance, I feel like. And it's usually because someone says something at some time, and that's going to stick with us for the rest of our lives. So we need to work on not apologizing for the way we look and be willing to love ourselves enough to take care of our own bodies and to feel good physically, even if that means not looking like these supermodels that society says is acceptable. Number 5 is beliefs and values. My faith and family priorities guide my choices. I don't attend events or do things that don't align with my values, and I don't apologize for saying no to things that don't fit with what I believe is best for me or my family. Luckily, I do live in an area with many people who do share the same values and beliefs as me, and that has been life-changing. I will say I didn't grow up that way, and it was hard to feel accepted and to fit in because my beliefs were quite different than most of my peers. But studies show people with strong personal values experience higher life satisfaction and lower stress. That comes from the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. Living by your values unapologetically actually helps your mental health, which a lot of these topics do help you mentally. So number 6, how I spend my time. I like to spend my time journaling, praying, exercising, creating content, and I try not to apologize for that, especially when it comes to the fact that it brings me joy. Research shows multitasking and constant availability increases cortisol and stress levels. Prioritizing what matters, it's science-backed self-care. Okay, and moms, we want to be everywhere at once. And I know that that is going to lead to burnout, resentment, and just overall a harder time for us. And, we're going to start lacking energy and not being able to show up for ourselves and for our family. So that leads me to number 7 is not being available 24/7 because we just don't need to be. If someone texts me, doesn't mean I have to respond immediately. I don't apologize for having boundaries around my time. And this, I will say, some weeks are better than others. But usually I try to prioritize other things before having to be available for everybody. The Harvard Business Review from 2021 says always on availability is linked to burnout and lower life satisfaction. So taking time for myself, for yourself, that is technically essential, not optional. And one of the ways that I take time for myself is going out with my friends, and usually we do some kind of craft and have some snacks. So that's one of my favorite things that I do to kind of reset myself. Number 8 is putting family first. So my kids, my husband, my home, these are my priorities. Choosing family over other obligations doesn't make me selfish. Here's the research backed by it. Prioritizing Family improves emotional resilience for both parents and children. I'm unapologetic because my family thrives when I focus on what matters. And sometimes this means skipping out on church responsibilities or work responsibilities or skipping a video on YouTube. There's a time and a season for certain things. So, number 9, changing my mind. Sometimes I change my mind. I try not to because I love schedule. I don't love tons of change. But anyways, I guess this is kind of an interesting concept, but you are allowed to change your mind on some things. Neuroscience shows adult brains keep rewiring. Adapting and learning is normal, not a flaw. Carol Dweck says changing your mind is a sign of growth, not weakness. So if I switch routines or rethink choices, I should feel proud, not guilty. So should you. Sometimes it is needed. If you realize things are not working out the way it is, it's good to change your mind and get something new going. 10, this is self-care practices / prioritizing mental health. I feel like this is probably one of the most important ones. So journaling, prayer, gratitude, exercise, these are my non-negotiables. I don't apologize for prioritizing my peace. Consistent self-care and mindfulness improve mental well-being and reduce anxiety and depression. Standing firm in these habits makes me stronger, calmer, and more present for everyone I love. For example, this was kind of a difficult choice for me, but there is this wonderful fitness studio in town that I was using like a 2-week unlimited pass to go try out the classes and absolutely fell in love, loved it. And then I realized, if I wanted to sign up and do the unlimited classes, I would have to go 3 times a week to make it worth it. Okay. And for me, that's hard to do because of time. It's an hour workout, 10 minutes there, 10 minutes back. So I really had to allow myself to make that a priority and to ask, my husband or my mom to watch my kids so I can go do this. And I'm learning that that's okay. I don't need to apologize for that. And it's going to, first of all, make me feel better because I'll be stronger and in better shape to play with my kids and have that energy. Plus, I'll be able to just live a longer life that I feel good in my body for. So if it's a self-care, it is definitely essential. Make sure you put yourself first. Your household probably won't run very smoothly without you, so do what you have to do to make yourself the best that you can. So in reflection, living unapologetically isn't about being rude. It's about honoring yourself in a world that doesn't want you to, right? Especially when it comes to a strong, independent woman. Positive psychology research shows owning your choices leads to higher life satisfaction. And what is better than that than higher satisfaction? When you stop shrinking for others, you create space for confidence, peace, and clarity. And that's what I want for you. The freedom to live life on your terms. So here's a challenge, okay? Write down one thing you will no longer apologize for. Own it, say it out loud, share it with a friend if you want. And if you love this episode, check out the video version on my YouTube channel, Modern American Mama, or subscribe on Spotify, Amazon, Apple for more episodes every Friday on No Textbook for Life. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next week.